Yeah, good evening, guys, and you are welcome to GST05 class. I am excited to see you guys here today. Like I mentioned in the group, this is one of the most notorious GSTs you will ever do in none. Well, that is not to scare you guys, but I must confess, you must give it your best in order to be able to pass it at least. So, this is GST 105, and that is History and Philosophy of Science. Excuse me. History and Philosophy of Science. That is what the course is all about. Well, let's try to discuss a bit about the course. Please, as soon as you join, make sure you give the video a thumbs up so that others will be able to find it. And for I can't really get your full name. Thank you for the gift. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. For those joining this for the first time, you are highly welcomed. So let's try our best to share the link with them in the group. And please, I hope you guys, I hope you can hear me. I hope my voice is audible. Let's get everything set before we commence anything. Okay, I think I'll need to copy the link and send this back. Let me quickly. So the link is there in the group. Anybody that wants to join can join. So, guys, I believe you can hear me and my screen is visible. Those are the two things I want to confirm from you guys. Yes, good evening, Mr. Kehinde. You are welcome. Please, as soon as you join, drop a message in the chat box. Let me see that you are here. And then please help me confirm if my voice is audible, if you can hear me. And secondly, if my screen is visible. I need to confirm those two things before we do anything. Good evening. I think, is it Ketura Jang? You are welcome. Please, is my voice audible? Can you hear me? And is my screen visible? Two things. Thank you, Ketura. So I know that you can hear me now. What of seeing my screen? Can you see the GS 105 course material displaying on your screen? Jesse Hemans, you are welcome. Please, you people should be committed. Zipporah, thank you. Thank you. I think we are good to go. Be committed to this course because this is a course that tends to mock students a whole lot. A whole lot. It's even a bit easier for those of you that are in science. You see, those of you that are in art, social science, like you are studying mass comm, you are studying any art related course or any social science, like you are doing management science, like this admin, public administration. This course is a mocker. It tends to mock you guys because you don't have any foundation in science, and this is purely science. So, guys, I will use that as a form of introduction to welcome you to the history and philosophy of science. I need to tell you that so that you prepare your mind, you know what you are signing up for. You will not joke with the class and then to read. Now, this course, as the title goes, that history and philosophy of science, that means treating two significant things in this course. One is history of science, the other one is philosophy of science. So, in treating the history of science, we are going to do that under several subheadings. We start with Module 1. In Module 1, we will talk about the nature of science. What we want to do now is we want to scan the material to know everything we'll be going through as we tend to study the material. In Unit 2, we'll talk about the scientific method, basic scientific theories, and Unit 4, laws of science, laws of nature. And in Unit 5 of that Module 1, we'll talk about the history of Western science, Part 1. That is where we'll talk about the origin of Western science in ancient, mentioning a lot of names, you know, a lot of years, dates, and funny facts that you don't know before about science in this course. It's an interesting course actually, but just a bit bulky and annoying to those of you that of Europe. And in the Unit 2, we'll talk about still history of science, Part 3, rise of modern science, Part 4, the 20th century scientific revolution. In Unit 4, the lost sciences of Africa. You will know that Africa practiced science. So that all these inventions you are seeing today, you don't just attribute them to the Western world alone. You will know that Africa, in fact, science literally began from Africa. So we'll look at the overview of the lost sciences of Africa, Part 1 and 2. Then in Module 3, we'll look at science, technology, and inventions. In Unit 2, we'll talk about social implications of technological advancement. Unit 3, the nature and scope of philosophy of science, then man and his origin. You will see that from that Module 2, from that Module 3, we are now diving into philosophy of science. Module 1 and 2 tends to focus on history of science, while Module 3 and 4 will talk about the philosophy of science. That is where we'll talk about man and his origin. We'll talk about the nature of man. We'll talk about man and his cosmic environment. We'll talk about man and his natural resources, great scientists of Nigerian origin, then we'll do revision and revision. Now, that is what you are expecting in this course. Just 4 modules and I think about 16 units or so. We will try our best to make sure we digest. We don't just read through. We will digest, we explain to each other, and we try to get the best. We'll make it exam focused. I will always give an assignment at the end of each class, which you will submit on that my assignment portal. I hope, let me ask you a question. I hope most of you here, you're also in that NOU 107 group, which means I have created your logins for you, the assignment portal, but that is where you'll be having some of the assignments done. Now, I will start the class with an icebreaker for those of you that are here. So, that is an icebreaker for you guys. Everybody online should attempt that question in the chat box. Okay, you are okay, don't worry. This is what will happen. I'm going to assign uh let me say a class rep during this class, and what will happen is after the class there is a way we are going to fetch the names of people that are available, so that because it's only people that attend the class that I will create their access for the assignment. So what will happen is those of you in the chat now, when it gets to the time that I need your names, you will drop your names, or you message me after the class. Message me on WhatsApp and drop your YouTube username. That alone is enough. I know those that are here, so I will check and create your access for the assignment, so you'll be able to do the assignment. Yes, history and philosophy of science. You see, we are up to 100 in the group, and we have just 14 people in attendance here. Well, that's not bad. They won't know the value of this course yet. So let's go to an important part of what we're here to do today. Unit 1, the nature of science. What is the nature of science? That's the first thing we want to do tonight. And in order to understand the nature of science, you must first know what science is. You can't be telling me that something is black, is yellow, is green, when I don't know that part. It's just like you telling me that a mango is red, is yellow, is green, or is round in shape. When I don't even know what a mango is, show me what a mango is first before you start telling me whether a mango is bitter or is sweet or is yellow or is. So when you show me, I have an idea of what a mango is. You can then tell me the nature of a mango. So in order to understand the nature of of science, it is uh, it is very important that you first know the meaning of science, which is definitions of science, branches of science, aims of science, and then differences between science and non-science disciplines. So in this unit alone, we will talk about the meaning of science, which is definition of science. Then we'll talk about the branches of science and then aims of science. And finally, we will differentiate between science and those subjects or disciplines that are not science. As a form of introduction, I believe you read the course guide well. If so, it means you now have a general understanding of what this course is all about, which is science, history of science. The unit, or this first unit we are studying, will make you aware of the various definitions of science, branches of science, aim of science, like I've said, aims of science, like we said earlier, and the differences between science and non-science disciplines. Now, it is also important to you because it will help you to understand the subsequent unit. The objectives below specify what you are expected to learn after you've gone through this unit. And the thing is, this course is all about science. It's only important that unit 1 teaches me about the meaning of science, because any other thing you want to do in this material, if you don't understand what science is, you don't know the meaning of science, then the other things will just be like so above your head. So we'll deal with the meaning first. Okay. And then we have very low contribution in the chat box. I don't like. You should have my WhatsApp number. How did you join this class? Somebody is asking how they can message me on WhatsApp. How did you join me? Sorry, join this class. I want to know. I believe you are in the WhatsApp group and you know the person that posted the link. In any case, that's my number. Let me pin it so we won't have to be going back to that all the time. Now, let's go to an important thing today. Let's try to learn something. Why do we want to understand the meaning of science? Why do we want to study the aims of science? Why do we want to know the differences between science and non-science disciplines? It's because they want us to, one, be able to outline 3 ways of defining science. So after we've gone through this unit, we'll come back to this objective and check, can you define science in 3 different ways now, or 3 different forms? Secondly, you should be able to identify carefully the areas of knowledge which qualify to be science and the one we cannot call science, and state briefly the purpose of science, which is the aims of science. Now, today, we will not rush it. We will study the definitions of science and we'll try to explain it to ourselves in different formats. What comes to your mind whenever you hear the word science? That's very simple. You just think like those that are in engineering, those that are studying biology, chemistry, physics. That once you hear science, it's very easy for your mind to go to that aspect. Oh, science. Oh, that is biology, chemistry, physics. Well, you are not totally wrong. The word science is derived from the Latin word scientia. That is the first thing we want to know. It's very important that every person in attendance here today know that the word science, when you talk about the word science, it came from the word scientia, and that is in Latin. It came from the Latin word scientia. So many people online did not give my video a thumbs up. You're supposed to give it a thumbs up before you even open your chat. Now, that is an icebreaker there for you guys. The word science is derived from the Latin word scientia. So I want you guys to answer that. Now, what is the meaning of scientia in Latin? In Latin, scientia means knowledge. In other words, we can just say science is knowledge. Knowledge of what? Let's digest this part very well. In Latin, there is this word called scientia. That is where they bettered the idea of science, the name science in English. Now, in Latin, that same scientia means knowledge. And if it means knowledge, if you want to simply define science, we can just say science is the knowledge of the world around us, or the world of nature. On the simplest level, science has been defined as the knowledge of the world of nature. The knowledge of the world of nature. Science has been defined as the knowledge of the world of nature. And so funny enough is that I think your set will be the last set that will do this particular course, because no, the answer is not science. The word science is derived from a Latin word. What is that Latin word? It's still there on the screen. So the answer is not science. Now I'm training you guys that way because that is how they set questions for exams. They'll cut out one single word and you have to fill in the gap for the fill in the gap questions. You guys have not even answered the last icebreaker, and I'm about to drop another one. Your class is getting boring. I hope the arts is not the issue. Okay, let me pause the arts so you'll be able to concentrate. I'm waiting for your responses on, okay, Scientia. I think somebody says Scientia. Okay, Zipporah says Scientia. Yes, that's correct. Nelson P is saying knowledge. Knowledge is not correct. While the meaning of the word is knowledge, but what we're asking you there is, what is that word from Latin? What is that word from Latin? Those of you saying science, you are not correct. The answer is not science. Scientia, thank you. Adejumo, Joseph. That's correct. Scientia is correct. Science is not correct. Richard Jr. is not science. It's from the Latin word scientia. Please grab that. Yes. And you have another icebreaker there. On the simplest level, science has been defined as the knowledge of the world of dash, the world of dash. Now, let's move on. The above definition, however, does not exhaust the full meaning of science. So if you literally define science as the knowledge of the world of nature, that definition is limited. Science is far more than that. So it is difficult to define science. However, science generally is regarded in three main ways. Of nature, but that doesn't capture all of science. So we say it is difficult to define science. So what do? We found a formula of defining science, which was, you know, uh, generally into three forms. We can define science in three forms. We can define science in three forms, like in the general knowledge now. First of all, you've learned that science came from scientia in Latin, and the meaning of scientia in Latin is knowledge, word of nature. Now, if that is the case, we found out that that kind of definition, we find it difficult to give a proper definition to science or of science. Therefore, we decide to define science by the first one is science as a body of knowledge. We will learn each of them individually, but for now, you need to know that science can be regarded in three different forms or ways. Science can be regarded in three different ways. And those three different ways are: one, a body of knowledge. You don't need to crack your brain for now, asking what a body of knowledge means. Don't worry. When we start talking about it, you understand. Two is a method for acquiring knowledge. All of it seems to be evolving around knowledge. We can define science as a body of knowledge. We can define science as a method for acquiring knowledge or studying and understanding the world. And then finally, we can define science as an institution. Three ways of defining science: a body of knowledge, a method of acquiring knowledge, an institution. That those are the three ways in which we can regard science. We can study science, or we can define science. We can define it as a body of knowledge, a method of acquiring knowledge, and an institution. Now, there is a way they ask question on this particular aspect in your TMA. They will say, which of the following is not regarded as a way of defining science. So they'll put a body of knowledge, a method of acquiring knowledge, an institution, and one thing that is not part of what is listed here. You should know the one that is not listed here. So basically, we have three ways in which we can define science. I will take it again: a body of knowledge, a method of acquiring knowledge, and an institution. Now, if you have understood that, let me quickly remind you the things we have done so far tonight. We've talked about the definition of science, and we try to look for it from the etymological meaning. We said etymologically, it came from the word science came from the Latin word scientia, and it's, in Latin, scientia means knowledge. Therefore, literally, we can say that science is the knowledge of the world of nature, the knowledge of the world of nature. However, if you say science is that, then we are limiting science, because science is to cover much more than the knowledge of the world of nature. Therefore, in order to come up with a better definition or explanation to science, we decide to generally regard science in three forms or three ways. The first one is we regard science as a body of knowledge, we regard science as a method of acquiring knowledge, and regard science as an institution. Those are the things we have done so far. Now, we will now start talking about each of these ways in which we can define science one after the other. We'll start with the first one, which is defining science as a body of knowledge. What does that mean when you talk about science as a body of knowledge? What does it mean to say science is a body of knowledge? This attendance and this performance is very poor. Maybe some people are still in Owambe. Maybe this Saturday is just not a good day for doing this class, but we hope to. So let's does it mean? I know this is a boring course. It's a very boring course. Like, especially those of you that are not in science, we find it so boring. But don't worry, you can't run away from it. It's a GST. Now, science as a body of knowledge, what does it mean? What does the word body tell you when you hear the word body? The bodies of knowledge generally regarded as science include bodies of knowledge like chemistry. Like when you talk of chemistry now, you know you deal with chemicals. So when you talk of biology, you deal with life, human, animals, anything that has life, even plant. So biology now becomes a body that houses everything about life, human, animal, plant. Chemistry is now a body that houses everything about chemicals and reactions and so on and so forth. While physics become a body that houses different things in life, like even calculations, laws of nature, and some other things that belongs to physics. So we can talk about mathematics, microbiology, mathematics for problem solving, macrobiology, pharmacy, and medicine. So when you talk about each of these names that you see, you are talking about science as a body of knowledge. Like each of them represent, if you look at them as a topic or a subject matter, you have so many things that fall under them. So they become a body. Chemistry is a body. Biology is a body. Physics is a body. Mathematics is a body. Microbiology is a body. Pharmacy is a body. And then medicine and any other part of science that seems to deal with several other things, or that seems that there are so many things under it. So what does the word body tell you? The bodies of knowledge generally regarded as science include the following: chemistry, biology, physics, mathematics, microbiology, pharmacy, and of course, medicine. Now, these bodies of knowledge differ from other forms of knowledge, such as religion and art, in both content and form. What we are trying to say is that the way you study chemistry, you can't compare it with the way you study art or religion. and also what chemistry contains as content. What you are studying in chemistry is far different from what you will find yourself studying in art or in religion. So you will study both, sorry, study about these differences in subsequent section. Don't forget that we said that three things we want to learn in this unit. One is the definition of science, different definitions of science. Two is uh, science. What is our second uh, objective? I know that the last one is to differentiate between science and non-science. Okay, we should be able to identify areas of knowledge. All right, so the first one we are dealing with now is science as a body of knowledge. We have three ways of regarding science. Three ways of regarding science. One, as a body of knowledge. Two, method of acquiring knowledge. Three, as an institution. We are studying the first one now as a body of knowledge. And we see when we are talking about science as a body of knowledge, we are of course talking about things like chemistry, biology, physics, mathematics, and so on and so forth. Now, the second one is science as a method for acquiring knowledge. We have talked about science as a body of knowledge. I think I have an icebreaker for you guys there. I've been talking and talking. It's time for an icebreaker now to check if you guys understand. Okay, this will be the question. Mm, mention three ways of regarding. Oh, sorry. Of regarding science. Okay, that is an icebreaker. Let me wait for you guys to finish that. Mention three ways of regarding science. You've seen them already, and you just need to recall them before we move to science as a method of acquiring knowledge. We have done science as a body of knowledge. But I would also like to explain more on science as a body of knowledge. Because a body of knowledge is a form of information that has been gathered, through several observations, through scientific method, through experimentation, research, and continuous knowledge. So, in the body of knowledge now, you are going to have things like facts, concepts, principles, laws, theories, and models. Just like you do study in chemistry, physics, biology, you study different concepts, different principles in them, different laws, theories, and models, and so on and so forth. Now, when we look at science, if I tell you that water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen, 2O, that is a body of knowledge. Yeah, I'm giving you, research on, and it now is a general law. Water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. You said that the earth revolves around the sun. It's already a fact that you know. If you say that Newton's laws of motion, we are talking about fact, theories that have already been put in place, all fall under the body of knowledge. They are organized systematically based on. So the second one, okay, let me check if you guys have been answering that. Body of knowledge, method of acquiring knowledge, and an institution. Thank you, J.C. Hemans. That's awesome. Kehinde, you are doing well. Adejumo, you are doing well. So all of you are doing well. On to study science as a method of acquiring knowledge. Now, science has well-known procedures for obtaining knowledge. Science has well-known procedures for obtaining knowledge. It's not just you thinking that something will work or something, this is the reason why something is working, that qualifies it for a science. Science is far more than that. It has its own method of studying things through observation, experimentation and so on. You will soon learn the scientific method. So let's not jump. Now, the two branches of science, which are empirical and formal sciences, use what is called the scientific method. What we are trying to say is that when you talk about science as a method of acquiring knowledge, we are of course talking about the procedures that science uses, in order to formulate its theories and principles and laws and so on and so forth. And we have two forms of science, or basic forms of science, that we can talk about. We have the empirical and, of course, the formal sciences. We're still going to talk about each of them, but I think I should just deliberate a bit on them now. So when we say science is a method for acquiring knowledge, what we mean is that science follows a systematic, logical, or organized process in order for them to discover new facts and explain what is happening around us. Now, scientists don't guess, they don't rely only on guesswork. In fact, scientists don't rely on guesswork, superstition, or personal opinions. It's not like in your own village that they will say when you sit on mortar on mortar. What is that myth that they normally attack? All those superstitions that we have. Uh, Kindly let's discuss. Give me one or two superstitions that you know that is very common in Nigeria. Some superstitions we have in Nigeria. I want to bring something out so you know the difference between science and some other things like superstition, like guessworking, like opinions. Science is not opinion. It's not I feel like. Science is not like that. It must have been tested, proven through several experimentations. So it's not, you can't say I feel like. No, no, no. You can't say in my own thought. No, no, no. You can't guess when it's science. Science does not support guessing, and doesn't support all this superstition of a thing. And yes, I'm still with you guys. I want you guys to give us examples of superstitions that we have in Africa or in Nigeria. Examples of superstitions that we have in Nigeria. That will help us to understand the difference between what is science and what is not science. Don't forget what we are doing now is science as a method for acquiring knowledge. Yes, we don't whistle at night, it will call snakes. It's not proven. It's not scientifically correct. If you whistle at night, it doesn't mean that snake will come. So those kind of things, that science does not support those kind of things. So science is far different from your own superstitions or your opinions. Why? Because science gather evidence through careful investigation. Science will only evidence choke. People say that you go explain tire, no evidence. That is not science. If there is no evidence, then science will not believe there is anything. So in science, must choke, it must be enough to back up your claims. So science, instead of guessworking, instead of forming superstitions or personal opinions, science will rather gather evidence and do investigation. They gather evidence through careful investigation. Now, the systematic process that science uses to gather its information is what we call scientific method. There is a process that science will use. Okay, now, as you said that whistling at night will cause snake. If it was true, I think it's a fact, not really a superstition. Science would have done some things on it. One is science will observe. Science will observe. They will observe that, okay, now the scientific method is a series of steps that help scientists now answer questions, solve problems, or arrive at conclusions, reliable conclusions. Now, there are several steps science uses in order to come up with facts. Since science will not believe anything that is not based on evidence, for science to investigate anything and arrive at evidence that is believable, they will do the following. They first start with observation. So the first thing is that they will observe what happened when you whistle. So your whistling will be observed, and what happened around you will be observed when you are whistling. So when you observe, the next thing that happens is they will try to identify the problem. We are talking of the scientific method now. Scientific method is that process that science passes through in order to investigate any matter so as to get reasonable evidences. We have observation, identifying the problem, formulating an hypothesis. We are still going to get to, I think I'm jumping. Let me leave that explanation for now. When we get there, we'll talk in depth about it. So for now, you just need to know that the second way in which we can regard science is science as a method of acquiring knowledge. And we have two forms of science or types of science there, the empirical and of course the formal science. Now I know someone should ask me uh, what is empirical science, but I don't think anybody have asked me that. I believe you guys know it already. You know empirical science already. So it means you know what empirical science means, and you know what formal science. But let me just say this: when we say empirical, empirical is a word that came from Greek, and you see that Greek word, what it means in Greek is experience. So anything that has to do with empirical, it means something that is gotten through experience, experiencing something. So when we say empirical science, is a type of science that gets its own knowledge. It gets sorry, a type of science that gets its own knowledge through observation, experimentation, measurement, evidence, collection of evidence from real world issues. That one is practical. You experience it, you can see it. You understand? So those science that you can see, you can observe, you can measure, you can test them. So any science that fall under that is empirical science, science that you can experience. It's not like they will tell you that the root of x is minus 2 times 1, and you now be asking your teacher, where is x? You know, you guys like to make jokes of that mathematical concept. After you left school for some time, you now say, when you start having real x's now in your relationship, you now start saying, no wonder they ask you to be looking for x in secondary school. Now you understand that better, because that one is abstract, it's not empirical. When you're looking for x that you don't even know where the x got lost or where it is, it's just as if they're playing with your mental health. Now, but when we talk about empirical sciences, those are the ones you can see. You can observe them, you can actually feel them, you can measure them, you can test them. Now, examples of empirical sciences, we have physics. You can feel, you can experience, you can observe, you can see matter, you can energy, force. You can, when you exert a force on an object, or you a force on that one, so you generally know that this is force, you experience it. So when you talk about motion, a moving object, you can see motion, you can see it ongoing. So we also have things like chemistry. Why? Because you mix acid and base together, you form chemical formulation and all those stuff. Those ones you can see them. Like biology, geology, astronomy, all those ones are empirical sciences, because you can experience what you are actually talking about. You can see it, you can measure it, you can have a feeling of it. That is what we mean by empirical sciences. But what of the formal sciences? What of the formal sciences? Now, for the formal sciences, those are the ones that study abstract things. When we say abstract things, things that are imaginative, things that they are not, you can't really see them. If a science studies love now, or joy, or sadness, or happiness, this kind of thing, they're abstract. You literally can't touch happiness like this. Well, except if your sister is named Happiness. So knowledge in formal science is obtained through logical reasoning. That is why in mathematics they will tell you, look for using Pythagoras theorem, solve the following. Look for the value of x, and then you'll be wondering, where did x came from and where did it go to that I'm looking for it. You have to reason. When you define concept, when you solve mathematical proofs, we are talking about formal science. In fact, the typical example of formal science is mathematics. The easiest example of formal science that you reasoning. You can't see that y, you can't see that x, you can't feel it. Now, characters of formal science, they are based on logic and mathematical language. You don't need to go to the lab to do any experiment in mathematics. And they, example, if you talk about board mass, you know when you say board mass, you'll be saying bracket, order, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. That is just a concept. It is not something that you can really feel or you can say. You know, I know you people understand what I'm trying to say. So the empirical sciences are the ones you can have an experience of, you can feel them, like biology, chemistry, physics. But when we talk about formal science, which is the other uh, branch of science that we have, then we're talking about mathematics. Basically, any type of science that deals with logic and reasoning is formal science. So I have explained that part that says two branches of science exist: the empirical and the formal sciences. So you guys understand what that means now. Now, but each of them, whether you are studying empirical science or you are studying formal science, whether you are studying empirical science or you are studying formal science, you will use a method that is called the scientific method, which evolves around observation, identifying the problem, forming the hypothesis, a lot of steps that that are used in order to come up with reasonable facts in science. We call them the scientific method. So the science, there should be problem identification, the hypothesis formulation, experimentation, and then conclusion. So I'm going to take an icebreaker before we talk about sciences. So before we talk about formal sciences and empirical sciences, I have done that already. I don't think I still need to take you through what is here. I've already explained to you, but let me just give you an icebreaker. What So we have an icebreaker, and probably the last one we'll take now. So everybody should attempt it. What are empirical sciences? What are empirical sciences? So that is an icebreaker. I'm waiting for you guys. I'll wait for you. Once I see your contribution, we will take the second icebreaker. So you are the one delaying us now. I'm patiently waiting for your responses on the meaning of empirical science. The meaning of empirical sciences. Waiting patiently for you guys. Mm, okay, 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 okay. I have J.C. Emmons. The study They study objects and phenomena which can be observed through any of the senses. Thank you. And which can be tested with instruments. Thank you. That is the definition given in your material. So it's only JCM that is here. No problem. You people want me to stop this class, I'm likely not going to do any class again for you guys. Maybe you will just focus on the facilitation alone. Let's see how much that will help you. Now, give an example of formal science. We've talked about, I think JC has helped me with the meaning of empirical science. Okay. Ayomi the King. Empirical science is a field of study that relies strictly on observation, experimentation, and so on. Thank you. Thank you, Ayomi. And then Mr. Kende said from a Greek work. Okay, empirical is from a Greek word. A Greek word. That is what you want to write, I believe. and it means experience, and science that is based on experiments. Thank you. And theory. Okay. All right. So I think the definition of empirical is making sense. So as we are doing that, I think I've also talked about formal and empirical sciences. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is science as an institution. But I'm not sure if, okay, we're actually going to do that, and that is where we'll stop the class this evening. Now, science as an institution, what does it mean? I think literally you know what institution means when you hear institution. Your school now, National Open University of Nigeria, is an institution. What makes or yes, what makes something qualifies for an institution? That is a kind of combination of a body of knowledge or so. All right, so let me not say much on that. Let's just say now, science as an institution. Science can be viewed as an institution which comprises millions of experts. These experts engage in the study and development of human knowledge. Yes. Now, the experts or scientists can be found in various research and educational institutions, industries, hospitals, companies, and so on. The cooperation and iteration among the development of science possible and rely science as an institution. I was trying to explain earlier that when you say institution, you literally know what the word institution means. Okay, Zipporah says example of formal science, mathematics, and abstract things. Thank you. Any science that deals with abstract things, things that can't be experimented with instrument, that we can't sense organs. Now, science as an institution is like established bodies or organizations. When you talk about science as an institution, those are organizations, institutions that deals with science, that has people under them that basically promote science through researches. We have examples like educational system, legal system. In the educational system now, we have science, faculty of science. So the legal system, the healthcare system, banking system, any system. So when we talk about institution, we're actually talking about systems like the school system, the bank system, the legal system. So when we now say science as an institution, it means that science depends on a large community of people working together rather than isolated. So a chemist now will not totally isolate himself from a physicist or from a biologist. They all work together in order to, bring science to the best of its form. Now, scientists from different countries conduct research, share discoveries, they verify each other's work, they build a community, they find, they build new knowledge on previous findings, they collect efforts together to do things. So when you're not talking about experts in the science world, especially under institution, when you're talking about expert in science or yes, in science institution, we are talking of people like scientists, researchers, engineers, medical doctors, pharmacists, biologists, chemists, physicists, environmental scientists, like people like that this in laboratory technologies. We have science educators, computer scientists, agricultural scientists, any form of scientist you can think of, they fall under science as an institution. And they all deal with researches. They research on new knowledge, they transform the old knowledge into better ones, and so on and so forth. So that is what we mean by science as an institution, and I hope you understand this topic, this part of the material that we have done tonight. And of course, in our next class, we will try to continue from branches of science. Our next class will be branches of science. By Monday, I will try to upload your assignment. Notwithstanding, you can message me now, drop your details. If you have not gotten access to the assignment portal before. Some of you are also doing NOU 107, so you already had your access to that assignment portal created. I will only add GS 105 for you. You know it's only NOU 107 that is there before. I'll add an GS 105 for you on Monday. But please make sure you tell me when you drop your details in my inbox now. Tell me that okay, I already have access, so or I'm new, I don't have access, so it will help me a lot. So thank you for staying till the end of the class for the few of you that attended the class, and I hope you did not waste your time. So we've laid the foundation for this course today. From the next class, we will try our best to build on what we've done today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Do have a wonderful night.